So once you have your basic toolkit together to start working on your bike at home, it's a really good idea to accumulate some spare parts in order to make those day-to-day jobs and maintenance stuff on your bike a bit easier. So here are my essentials that you need to start building a really good kit and setup at home for yourself. So one of the first things I recommend doing is getting hold of one of these plastic cases. You get these from any sort of DIY shop or homeware place, and they're full of little compartments so you can keep all your nuts and bolts and all that sort of useful stuff in one place and it's not going to get lost. They're not expensive and you'll probably end up having a few of these over the years with various different bike bits in as you start getting more in depth with the jobs you have. But right now, let's take a look at those essential things that I want to talk about. So first up, I recommend having a supply of inner tubes. Now regardless whether you set your bike up tubeless or not, you're going to need these at some point, whether it's a last minute puncture before going to work or you're late for the group ride with your friends and you've got a puncture. So get yourself some inner tubes. Now you could factor in what wheel size you have, whether you've got 26, 27.5 or 29s. So what I always do is go for a 27.5 inch tube. And the reason for that is you can stuff it into a 26 inch, obviously fit it to 27.5, and you can stretch it into a 29 quite comfortably. Now I always go for Presta valves on my ones. And the reason for that is they fit all rim drillings. Now most rim drillings these days are for Presta valves anyway. They're the most common ones you tend to see on mountain bikes, especially with tubeless setups. But it does mean that they're going to fit whether it's Presta or Schrader, whereas the fatter Schrader valves are only going to fit rims drilled for those. So it also means if you need to help a friend out, this tube will fit his bike. Something I like to look for in an inner tube is something with a removable valve core. And the reason for that is that these do get bent from time to time, and if that happens with a standard tube, then basically the tube's a write-off, so because that will snap. So if you've got a removable core, you can replace that so you get longer term use out of your inner tube, and that's better for the environment. So next up, if you're a tubeless user, then you definitely want to have a couple of spare valves. They don't cost a lot of money and it will save you aggravation in the long term, because time to time these things do fail, they give up the ghost a bit and they're going to lead to a leaky, slow puncture as it were. So having a couple of these spare so you can put them back into your bike again is always good. I always recommend going for ones that have got a removable valve core, because with the tubeless setup, as well as the chances that you could bend or damage the core itself, they do get bunged up and it's an easy way of cleaning them. So just something to factor in and keep in your toolkit as well. And of course, have a valve core remover, because it's an essential no-brainer tool. They're dirt cheap and once you bought one, you'll always have it. Now this one's a bit of a different one. I don't tend to use tyre levers that much myself. I tend to remove tyres using my hands. But time to time you do come across a really stubborn one. So whether you have tyre levers or not, I definitely recommend also adding into your toolkit an extended long one. So this one's a toe peak and there's a regular short one on here and there's the big boy as well. Now time to time you're going to find a tyre and rim combination that is just the hardest thing in the world to remove, and you're going to need one of these, otherwise you risk damaging your rim if you have to substitute it with anything else. You won't use them that much, but it's one of those things that is, I count it as a spare part because it sits in a little toolbox and stays there for that rainy day when you get stuck with a really tight fitting tyre. Solves a lot of problems. Now electrical tape is something I recommend having in your toolkit as well. It doesn't matter what colour you have, but this will come in handy in various places of the bike. So it can be used if you break a cable guide or something, just secure or lash the cable to the frame. And it can also be used as a substitute for rim tape if your rim tape has deteriorated or you've got some sort of leak or something on the inside of the rim. So you can run this around much like you would proper rim tape. It's not quite as good, but it's cheap and it's easy to keep in your kit at home. Definitely have some of this stuff around. Of course, everyone knows what I like to keep in my spare parts: cable ties. Reason for that is they can literally fix anything. Everyone knows that. One of the most versatile things for any toolkit. Keep them in your riding bag, keep them in your spare parts box, keep them in your manual, keep them in your car boot, literally anywhere. You have to have a stash of these things because you can use them for a multitude of things. I like to keep some 3M heli tape. So this is basically industrially thick 3M clear tape with a sticky back to it. Keep this stuff, and it's always good for cable rub and areas on the bike where you're going to rub your frame paint down and sort of dull that finish. I keep a few sheets of this stuff around, and it's good time to time just to inspect areas on the bike and just have some at hand. Really useful stuff. Now I always like to keep a few gear inner cables along with outer cables, and inside another little box all the ferrules and end caps I'm likely to need. Always have a stash of this stuff because gear cables do snap, they do corrode, they do get sticky, and it's one of the easiest ways to just give your bike a quick refresh. Flush out the outer hosing, it generally stays quite good if you replace the cables from time to time. Put a new inner cable in, trim it down, fit your aluminium end cap on the end there, crimp it so it doesn't fray in future. It's great stuff to have, don't cost a lot of money, keep a bit of a supply at home. Well worth it. And finally, something a bit unlikely you might think is an old toe strap. So, as I said, it's a toe strap that used to go with the toe clip, and this one hasn't been used for many years. But they're really useful again for a lot of things, whether that is holding your bikes together on the bike rack on the back of a car, for holding your brake lever if you're bleeding your brakes, or what I tend to do time to time is if I'm washing my bike outside and I'm leaning up against the wall and I don't want it to sort of fall over, you can grab that around the front brake, put it on so your bike's stationary, it's not going anywhere. Just a useful little strap to have, always going to come in handy. And so the next thing you really want to get good at is hoarding sort of bike parts. And what I mean by that is if you have something like your rear mech has been bent or damaged, don't just bin the thing because these are full of really handy little things. The limit screws are good, the jockey wheels, priceless, take those things off, there's nothing wrong with them. This particular mech has been crashed and it is bent, but it looks like pretty good condition. So you want to take the cable guide off there, the bolts that retain the jockey wheels, and even part of the cage, because if I bend another mech, I'm going to be able to latch that back on there and keep that stuff going. The same applies to any bits of your bike. If your bottom bracket wears out, keep the little spacers that you use on the bottom bracket to get your chain line correct, because they will come in handy when you go to fit one later on and you haven't got any. Keep that stuff. And you know what? Keep the little cup on the inside as well that protects moisture. And it's worth actually keeping the cups even if the bearings are completely knackered, because at some point you will have a part fail on your bike completely, and even if it just means you can ride the bike for the day with a knackered bearing, you can chuck that one back in. You've got to think about these things. Some of this stuff will come in handy later. Again, if you've got some old lock-on grips that have worn out, if you can remove the collars, do that because they're worthy, because you can put them onto new grips in the future. But also retain all of those bolts. Keep the bolts from all your lock-on grips because they're usually a 2.5mm Allen bolt, and if they don't corrode in there, they could snap, and also the heads get damaged really easily. So having a selection of those in your spare parts box is really, really useful. And the final other thing that I like to sort of hoard a little bit is parts of hubs and old cassettes. So if your cassette wears out and you replace it, keep the old lock ring that's on there because sometimes they go wonders or get damaged. That's a good thing to have in your spare parts. And the same, if you change your cassette from a SRAM to Shimano or vice versa, you're going to need to change the body of your hub. So that is worth keeping a spare as well. And plus they've got bearings inside those, they can be transferred to other parts of the bike. So all these little things you want to start hoarding. If your mate's got a damaged bit of a bike and he doesn't want it, have it off him and see what stuff you can sort of nick off that to keep in your little box of goodies. Well worth having all this stuff because it's going to save you a trip to the bike shop in the future. So hopefully this essentials video and the sort of spare parts to keep at home has been useful for you. I'd like to know what sort of spare parts you like to keep in your toolkits at home. Let us know in those comments below. For a couple more really good videos, click right down here if you want to see 10 ways to refresh your bike. Now that's pretty much something that doesn't cost too much money to do, but it's a great way to get your bike ready for the new season ahead. And if you want to take super nice pictures of your bike to send into Bike Vault, click down here for that video. As always, click on the globe to subscribe to the channel. We've got loads of content coming up for you guys. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up.